pad, everything, pass across needs to be upstairs on him. The rest, we know what we have to do. You play sound hockey at the start, simple, put the puck deep, forecheck the shit up those deep. Come on, guys.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Swan Hockey Live. I'm your host, Eric Swanek, and tonight we are joined by Quebec Remparts Assistant General Manager Nicole Bouchard. Nicole, very happy to have you here. How are you doing tonight?
Very good. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming on. I know we kind of started the podcast 20 minutes ago before this started, but we were in the middle of some good conversation. But we're going to get back to that here in a second. If you're new here, welcome. Feel free to ask your questions, join the conversation. Again, no stupid questions. This is a completely interactive show. If you're watching on Instagram, we will not be able to see your comments. So if you want to comment and interact with the show, please head over to YouTube, Facebook, or the live podcast channel, the Swan Hockey Discord server, and ask your questions there. Nicole, very happy to have you here. So the Quebec Remparts, you guys have obviously been one of the biggest franchises in the Quebec Major Junior Hockey League, or now the Quebec Maritimes Junior Hockey League, for very many years. We'll get into that in a second. Why don't you first tell us, a little bit about yourself and how you got to where you are now?
So I'm working in hockey for many years now. That's my 44th season this year. So as you know,
44th?
44th.
Wow.
I began in 1981 with the Quebec Nordics. I was there until they leave for Colorado in 1995. Then I moved on to the IHL Quebec Remparts we had in Quebec for 2 years, from 96 to 98, and then from 99 to 2001 to the AHL Montreal Canadiens Farm Club for 3 years. Then I moved where I am right now with the Quebec Remparts since 2001.
Yeah, that's awesome. And then like we were talking before the show, Bill Underwood from the Kitchener Rangers, he's on all the time. He unless I'm mistaken, he was he scouted with the Quebec Nordiques. Maybe you guys are there at the same time. Yeah, so why don't you tell us a little bit about about the Remparts? Obviously highest level of junior hockey in the world, right? And I think a lot of players and parents don't truly understand what it is, what it has to offer, how it operates, and what you guys actually do for the players. We saw that intro there a couple of minutes ago. For anybody that saw it, that is the Quebec Remparts. Those are 16 to 20-year-old players. All of that is for them.
Yeah. I would say, as you said, like a lot of players, particularly from US, they like other territories were planning to go to NCAA instead of playing the junior in Canada. A lot of them don't know what we can offer. We can offer, I would say, as much as probably they can get in NCAA or USHL. Like in Quebec, we are treating players like if they were playing pro. They arrive in the morning, they have breakfast that they need. They practice, then they have lunch, they go to school. We have drivers for them. They are never by themselves. They're 16, they're coming at 16, and sometimes I'm telling the parents that as soon as your son's gonna play for us, you're gonna be like on vacations because we take care of everything, like the billet families, the school, whatever they need. Like I would say that's a lot, and it's hard to describe everything, but we can do almost everything for them.
Yeah, and everybody at home, like you guys will see that. If you have any piece of Swan Hockey merch with a merch tag on it, including the Onward and Upward Tour jerseys from last spring and summer, scan the merch tag. I'll show you guys right here. That black square, the bottom left-hand side. Scan that, and you will have access to a behind-the-scenes footage of the Remparts and kind of what a day in the life looks like in that organization. I watched it today. Obviously, it's very, very impressive. You'll see a lot of the things that Nicole's talking about, how the players are treated, and just the facility's crazy, right? Like how many seats is that place? It's a Videotron Center, right?
Yeah, Videotron Center. It's a pro building. I would say we have like 18,259 seats. So for sure,
about 18,259.
Yeah, we're not filling it every night, but we are averaging near to 9,600 people per night. And if I just remembering, like in 2023, when we went to the playoff championship, when we played in the finals, we were facing Halifax, and we sold the tickets for the old building. We were sold out for 3 games, and we sold them in 12 minutes. So it was like the big fever in the city. Everybody wanted to come. That was very crazy.
Yeah. So 18,259 tickets in 12 minutes, or 3 times in 12 minutes.
3 times. Yeah. So
that's nuts.
That was the first, we were sold out the first ever game in 2015 at the Videotron Center for the opening game. But that season we had an average of like 14,000 people per night. We had not a pretty good team on that year, but everybody was curious to come see the building, see the new facility, and they were very impressed by the building.
Yeah, it's an NHL building.
Yeah, that's an NHL building. We had I would say 6 times we had NHL games, like preseason games in Quebec in the building. And this year in September of 2024, we had like the LA Kings who came for a week for a part of their training camp. They played like 2 games, and they skate practice for a couple of days in Quebec here. That was a very big experience for them.
Yeah. And 14,000 average. That's probably more than the New York Islanders for many years.
Yeah, I would say that. Yes, we had it.
Like
I would say
crowd.
we had it once, like the first year, but since then we're still averaging like over 9,000 people per night, and it's like I would say we're like, I think 1 year during those years the London Knights were over than us by a couple of people per night, but we are like the best NHL CHL franchise with the for attendance average.
Yeah, that's crazy. And what's obviously all right, so we hear a lot on Facebook and stuff of bringing NHL team back to Quebec. What's that talk like there? Is the town just like, no, we don't want it, or we do want it, or is there?
I would say everybody want it back, but we're not behind the scene, and we don't know what is discussed in the high level of the NHL, but I cannot tell you it's going to come back. I would say I would be hoping it would be.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And what, did both teams would share the building?
That would be the only thing we should do. Share it with the NHL, but I think that should be something feasible. And when they play home, we go on the road, and when we play home, they go on the road. So.
Yeah, because it's Calgary. They share a building, right? The Western Hockey League team and the NHL team, they share a building, right?
Yeah, Vancouver already shared it too, but when the Canucks moved in a new building, the The
Oh, no
junior
problem.
team stayed in the older one.
Oh, okay. Okay.
But I think Edmonton also, but not pretty sure, but they ever played together for in the same building for sure.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, no, that's interesting for sure. And lots of like lots of changes and stuff. I mean, I guess before we get into that too, like there's been rumor of a couple other NHL teams in the United States too. Like that, like cities that they've been looking at. I forget what they are off the top of my head. I thought I saw Georgia the other day. I don't think it was in Atlanta.
They ever talk about Atlanta, I think, to have it back again. They
Yeah.
had like it twice. The we hear sometimes we were hearing a lot like Seattle, which happened. Utah moved into. They said maybe Phoenix should be back one time. So we don't know.
Yeah.
We're just expecting to have it back, but we don't know really because like they need to find ownership first, and they need to like if any ownership like is showing up to be interested in the team, so they need to see what the NHL what they're like thinking about it. We don't really know what it is. They always say, "Oh yes, we're still considering Quebec to have a team," but that's something. Is it the reality? We don't know.
Yeah. A lot of people on Facebook don't seem to think it's a reality. They're like, going nuts. Like, oh, how is Phoenix? Phoenix is playing at ASU, and we can't get a team in Quebec, and all
when
that.
You're thinking
whatnot.
they played like in the last, I think, 2 seasons, they played it at the university building. You have like with 5,000 people per night.
Yeah. ASU, like it was.
It's weird to think that they should have moved here to Quebec for having a bigger building.
Yeah, I mean, it must have been like a really cool experience being at the game, being like right on top of it, like being in a small building, like. But it's just like, yeah, it just had to be. I mean, it had to be weird, like for some. I mean, I guess for some of the younger guys on the team, they probably loved it, like, being at ASU and playing in the NHL and not having to go to school, But like, some of the older
players who played in front of like thousands of people before, it was probably weird to play there.
Yeah, that's what I could see too. Like some of the guys, especially some of the older guys, are like, all right, like what are we doing?
Yeah.
But it was and I was laughing because I was in Binghamton, New York, with the Federal League team, and they had the markings on the ice behind the goal line that cut off the corners for the goalie. And like I asked one of the, like I was talking to one of the rink guys, and I'm like why'd you guys put those in? Like the Federal League doesn't use that rule. And like they're kind of, I think they were kind of like making a joke, like, oh well, just in case we have to have an NHL team here, like you don't know, like because that's right when Phoenix had to go to ASU, but because like the Binghamton building's like like 4,000 seats. I mean, they packed that place in the Federal League, but but yeah, it was just funny. Like I don't know, it's just like as soon as you think you've seen it all, it's just like something crazy happens, and that's why I remind people too, like because a lot of people are like they certain adversity that they might face at certain levels. Like I tell people all the time, like, hey, you're always going to face adversity. It's the same thing at every level. Just, the guys get better, things like, but there's adversity at every level. Right. And that kind of proved it. It's like, hey, you think that this stuff is over, and here you are in the NHL. Hey, guess what? We got no rink. We're going to play at the college,
Sure.
So like, there's always some sort of adversity, some sort of like, oh, I can't believe this happened. And, that's why I always tell players, like, hey, you need to learn how to be successful in chaos, because you're never going to be able to control the environment around you. And if you can't, like, you got to learn how to be successful in chaos, because if you can't be successful in chaos, I don't know how you're going to make it. Right. Like you need to be able to bring that performance regardless of what's going on around you. Because one thing we always talk about on here, like one thing I always say is performance is king. Like your performance is what matters the most. And, junior hockey teaches these guys in every way, shape, and form. It's not just skill development. It's a lot of life lessons as well that you want to learn on the small stage before you get to the big stage later, because you want to be able to handle it when you get to the big stage. Because when you're at the big stage, you're just expected to play well. Like, it doesn't matter what's going on around you. It's, hey, you got a job to do it.
And they're lucky, and there's a certain point they can be lucky because we have like a lot of people coming to the games, like a lot of media coverage. So they're used to see media, not every day, but I would say once, twice a week, coming to practice, doing interviews with them, doing radio interviews. Sometimes they're like we're like the big team in the city. There's like baseball and football in fall, and baseball in summer, but during winter, the only sport like public one where we can have families coming to see us, and that's a biggest experience for them because they're not used to play in front of 9,000 people. They play sometimes in front of 100 people, which are all like their families and friends. So
Yeah.
it's very different when they come to the building.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, like, that's a whole nother pressure or whatnot to, learn how to deal with. And,
and we want to have them becoming like better players, but better persons too. They go to school, they need to have a B plan if ever it doesn't work in hockey. And we are preparing them for both of it, like even like school. And if it's not working, if it's not working for hockey, they can go to school and continue their life process after if needed.
Yeah. And that's always been like a big thing that, I think down here in the United States, a lot of people would tell players like, like, everybody was under the impression that if you went major junior, academics was out the window, and if you don't make it to the NHL, you're screwed. Like, and it's just, it just wasn't the truth. And I think a lot of, I'm sure there's some organizations that maybe they didn't take the school as serious as other organizations, like, but like people just thought that like it was over if you went major junior, and it just wasn't the case. And I think now people probably have to be like, what was I told? Like, now these guys can go to the NCAA. I was always told that this was a dead end road for school.
They should listen and look at what teams are offering, because that's false to think that if they play junior in Canada, they don't go to school. They go to school every day as much as they can. Like every day, except probably the Friday, which is different for us because we play a lot of games like Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. But they go to school all the other days. They practice in mornings. They go to school in the afternoon. Mondays are a full day of school, and they have like their homework. They have a certain number of like courses to follow to get the scholarship from the league. And I would say that's not something bad. That's very different of the thinking of people can have about the CHL.
Yeah, 100%. And like, that's like kind of like, the whole thing. And like, people would think like, oh, if I go to CHL, they don't support school. And it's like, no, they literally pay for your school. Like, what are you talking about? Like, they'll actually pay for your school.
We pay for school. We pay for I would say everything. As soon as they put like their foot in our dressing room area, they don't have a penny to spend. We pay for equipment, we pay for hockey sticks, we pay for traveling, for lunch, for school, for everything. So that's a lot of money we spend on each of them, but we want them to succeed. And that's a rule. You come play with us or any other CHL organization, I would say probably the same, but I would say we are all the same. You don't go to school, you don't play for us, for sure. That's a rule. You have to play hockey. You want to play hockey, but you go to school. And I remember like Jonathan Marchessault was playing for Nashville now. He played for us like for 4 years. And at 20-year-old, I remember he came to the coach's office and he said, "No, it was after Christmas." And he said that I talked to my parents and I decided I won't go to school after Christmas. And then the coach looked at him and he said, "Okay, fine. You can do that, but where do you want me to trade you? Because you won't do that here in Quebec. It's a rule. It's mandatory to go to school. Even like import players are coming. We have this year like 2 Slovak Slovakian players, and they go to school, but they go to their own school system. They go online from Slovakia, and they continue their process there. And if they don't play hockey after, they're going to have like a background of school.
Yeah. And that's just like, you know, like just true to life, right? Like you should always like, like I always think you should be trying to better yourself and everything. And I think that's a lot of I think a lot of people don't realize that too. Like even guys in the NHL, they have other stuff going on. They're not just playing in the NHL. Like they're, they might have businesses on the side, and not that they're sitting there working 80 hours a week, like, building a business, but they got their hand in little things here and there, and they're trying to better themselves.
Yeah, and they have to prepare themselves to do something after hockey, because life is continuing. Like when they are like 35, 36 or 37 years old, they have to do something. They have money for sure, but you don't stay home like just spending your money and not doing anything. So that's why the time they play for us until 20-year-old, they can go to school. We ever had like players at the university level at 20-year-old, and we have like players who did not play hockey after, we have doctors, we have like accounting people. They can do like anything they want, policemen or whatever. We're just supporting them in what they would like to have as a second career.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's, that's great. Like, and I think, and I think that's been a very, very common, misconception down here. And I think people are now starting to see it, or I don't even know if they see it. I think now they just like think it's pretend that they always thought that it's been there. Like, cause now that the NCAA is letting the guys play, now they're, all these people are now pretending like they weren't, like, I guess, lied to for the last 20 years, like, or whatever.
Yeah,
like it's just crazy.
Like, over the years, we drafted like American players who never come. Some ever come here and play, and even like players from Quebec or wherever they were coming from. They were just thinking of, I won't go because even if I'm drafted by you, I won't go because I want to go NCAA. And when the rule changed back in November, two of them were drafted, one like 2 years ago, one we drafted just back in June of 2024. And they both changed their minds, and they said, okay, I'm going to go. I want to go and see what you're offering, and I want to go. And they're going to stay with us. And if they don't play hockey after, like the doors of NCAA are still open for them. One is 16 years old, and he has a commitment already. So he knows that's going to be open for him after if he doesn't play hockey.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I mean, it's, I think too, I think a lot of players used it as an excuse because, like, obviously, the CHL is the best junior league in the world, right? Like,
I think, yes.
So I think a lot of players use it as an excuse too. Like, I think there's players that, were nowhere near the CHL level, and they use that as their reason why they wouldn't play in the CHL. We're like, oh, I would never play there because I want to keep my eligibility. When really it's like, no, you're not playing there because you're not good enough to play there right now.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you have a lot of work to do if you want to play there. But I think a lot of people used it as a scapegoat as to why they didn't make it to that level.
Yeah, maybe. Like back in, I would say maybe 18 years ago, we ever had like 5 or 6 American, like US players on our team. And they came, they were not drafted. I think, if I remember, none of them was drafted, but they're doing other business today. One back in 2003, we drafted him like in the first round. He was from the Boston area, decided to come at 16 years old, and he played until 19. He married a girl from Quebec City, is living in Rhode Island right now, but he learned to speak French. He has his own business in Rhode Island now, and He's doing well. He didn't. He had like he was drafted, but he played a few pro games and AHL, IHL, or wherever he played. But now he's like 40 years old, like having his own business, have a family, and he studied when he was with us, and it helped him a lot for what he is today.
Yeah. How's the college interest been so far from colleges like reaching out and stuff to the team?
I would say it's good for like that rule change is good for like Quebec player who, like Q players who played like with us or any other team in the league who can go to NCAA after, and it opens doors to like 20-year-old players also, because if they are from Quebec, like the province of Quebec, they had the opportunity to play in, I think, in like 4 or 5 different university programs in Canada, which were the best one for them. But now they can go NCAA. We have 20-year-old player per team. And like for us, 2 of them already signed commitment with 2 universities for next year. So that's a new opportunity they did not have before, and they can have now, which is good. They're going to pursue their like hockey career, like studying for 4 years, 3, 4, 5 years, and then maybe open new doors for them in pro hockey after. They have time. They have plenty of time in front of them.
Yeah, and so last week we had Len Cannell on here. He's the college free agent. He's one of the college free agent scouts for the Philadelphia Flyers in the NHL. And it was interesting because like I asked him, like one of the things that we were kind of like pondering over was, will this change the way NHL teams draft, right? Like if there's a player that, you know, if you're deciding between 2 players for like your 6th round pick or your 7th round pick, and it's between a kid that was in the CHL or a kid that's maybe in the USHL, maybe you went with the USHL kid because you knew he had another 4-year runway in college, right?
Before
Now, does that
signing.
maybe change things, right? Do you maybe take maybe some more CHL players because you know that, okay, even these guys that are, you know, maybe down the totem pole a little bit, they're going to be a, you know, 5th round pick, 6th round pick, 7th round pick. Okay, well, hey, they don't have to be ready in 3 years or 2 years, whatever. Like they've got that 4-year runway now.
Yeah.
Like I wonder if it's going to start to change the draft a little bit.
Probably, yes, I would say. And it's good for everybody, because they were like junior players at like 2 years to be signed by NHL team. If not, they go back in the draft or they are just released. But
right
now it gives like chance to maybe more players to still thinking about playing pro in the NHL, or like being able to pursue their dream and play in the NHL, which is good for everybody. I think like the teams have more time to look at them. They have like players have more time to develop and be better. It's a win-win situation, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's great for the player. Like it really is. And then, you know, if it's great for the player, it's, you know, it's great for, you know, it's great for the teams on top, right? Like it's great for the NHL, it's great for the CHL. There's, you know, some other leagues that are going to be losing players that it's not, you know, they may not think it's so great, but you know, but that's where, again, just like put on the best, you know, you got to put on the best product. If you put on the best product, you're usually not going to have a problem.
Yeah, and I think it was good like for most of CHL teams when it changed, because if I look at the BCHL, I think it's 32 or 33 players who left that league when the rule changed for coming in the CHL. That's a lot. Like probably most of them were the best players on their team, and they just moved on to continue junior, which is good for everybody. For us, I would say not for them, but for us, it's good.
Yeah, and then there's been like obviously rumors of whole teams, you know, moving. I mean, like there's been the whole, you know, saga with Youngstown and Muskegon in the USHL talking about going to the OHL. And then I think they were actually suing USA Hockey. You know, and then there was talk of Fargo and I think Sioux Falls leaving the USHL and going to the Western League. And we had Fargo on this podcast two nights ago, like they obviously said that, that they're, proud members of the USHL, and
because
that's the end of it.
both of those leagues have like US teams based, so they can have maybe two, three more. I don't know, but it can be good for like players development and having more teams to have the chance to play junior.
Yeah, because I think the Western League, I think they have 5 US teams already, which a lot of people probably don't realize.
Yeah.
And then I heard rumors of Penticton going to the Western League, and then also potentially Chilliwack.
And Ontario has like 2, if I'm right. I don't remember the 2 of them, but they have 2 US based teams also.
Yeah, Erie.
Yeah, Erie and Saginaw. Yeah. So will there be more? Maybe a couple coming in the queue. We don't know, but
and then Flint as well.
Oh yeah, Flint. That's true. But maybe the Q League can get a couple. I don't know. Like from the like our territory is northeastern, states. But can we get a few from there? There's no USHL teams, I think, in that area, but. There's no
USHL in your territory.
Like can a few people would be interested to buy a new franchise in US in that area and bring it to the Q League? We don't know.
Bring back the Maniacs.
Yeah, the Maniacs in Lewiston. So.
Yep, Lewiston Maniacs. Yep, yeah, they got a North American League team there right now, but Lewiston. That was a cool name and a cool logo too.
Yeah,
Lewiston Maniacs, and then I was actually
they
talking
were good.
to
They had the good team at the time. So
I was actually talking to the other day Roger Shannon.
Mm-hmm.
So he won the Memorial Cup there. He was their GM. And I was talking to him the other day. But
Lewiston very well.
What do you say, Nicole?
I know him very well.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah.
Because he worked for Moncton after and a few other teams. So.
Yep. Yeah. So and. I mean, like the territory, it's kind of, I mean, I don't know. Like, I guess there's a lot of hockey players in it, but it's kind of odd that the Quebec League out of the 3, like,
very
the territory is so small.
Yeah.
Like, it's
comparing to the 2 other leagues, our territory is very small.
Yeah, like it very, very small. And it's a tough territory too, because like there's a lot of good hockey players in that territory, but
and they got a lot of good like schools.
Right. Well, that's the thing. There's a lot of players in that territory that are good, but there's also a lot of players in that territory that want to stay home, and maybe it'll change now because of the rule. But, there was a lot of guys in that territory that they would always, prep school was their thing. And then college hockey 100% was their thing. Right. So they were doing whatever was going to get them to college hockey.
Yeah, and I remember we ever drafted players like from the our US territory, and they were accepting to come in Quebec, meet us to see what we can offer. And at the end, the answer was always, it should be interesting to come, but I want to live like the college level. I want to stay on the campus. I want to stay in the those schools are big, like very well known, very popular, and very hockey program. And at the end, it was always the same answer. I'd like to come, but I'm gonna stay because I want to go on a university campus and be with the other students and this and that. So we had to fight about it, against it. I would say against it. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's a tough territory because, and again, hopefully things might change now with the new rule, but it was always, guys would always go play prep school like 20 minutes from their house and then go play, and then go play junior 5 minutes from their house and then go play at college 30 minutes from their house. Like they never wanted to leave. But now maybe it's going to change because they realize that, now that this path is opened up.
Like even prep school, they don't play all time like to the nearest team. Sometimes they go 5-6 hours on the road for a road trip to play another prep school or whatever, depending on where they're playing, or they have kind of pickup tournaments. And so they don't play necessarily like 10 minutes from where they live, and they have a long roads to do sometimes.
Yeah. I mean, and then like the schedules, like you guys play like almost a NHL schedule.
Yeah, we play 64 games.
Yeah, so
we
it's
were
not,
at
not far off.
68 until last year, and they changed it for 64 for having less like weeknights games, and to have like players more concentrated on school, not to disturb too much their studies and everything. So we played most of our games during weekends, like Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and we come back.
Yeah. No, I mean it's smart. I mean, I obviously definitely see the point, of doing that. And what who are some of the most notable NHL players that have come through the program?
In our program, you say?
Yeah.
You mean? Guy Lafleur was one of the first one, I would say 55 years ago, but he's one of the biggest one we had. But in the NHL right now, we're still having Marchessault, who plays for Nashville and like won the MVP with Vegas when they won the Stanley Cup like 2 years ago. Marc-Edouard Vlasic is playing for the Sharks in San Jose, played for us, and made the NHL at 19 and never came back. Simon Gagné, our like actual GM, is like played 11 years in Philadelphia, played Tampa Bay, LA, won the Stanley Cup with them, and finished like for half a season in Boston. But I'm just thinking Alexander Radulov was a Russian player we had for 2 years, and was drafted by Nashville, played there, and is playing in the KHL now, but played also in Montreal for a year, and I don't remember which other team he played for. Another team, but I'm just forgetting it right now. But Radulov was a good one for us too. I'm thinking we have like a few other ones, but those are probably the biggest ones we have.
The biggest one. Yeah, I was just gonna ask you about Simon Gagné.
Like, we had like over 100 players drafted in the NHL over like those 50 something years.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah,
it's crazy. Yeah, I was just gonna ask you about Simon Gagné, like, because obviously he's a GM now. Played what you said, 11 years in the NHL, right? And like, I grew up a Flyers fan, so I obviously grew up watching them.
He played more than 11 years. He played 11 years with the Flyers, but
11 with the Flyers.
Then he played a couple of years in Tampa Bay, then LA 2 years, and finished in Boston. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, and then now and obviously played with the Remparts as a player. Now he's back as a GM, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. He played his junior hockey with us, and was drafted, left the year after at 19 also, and never came back. And he had like a successful career with the Flyers, and then it was I think he was traded to Tampa Bay and then LA, with who he won the Stanley Cup in 2012, and is now like very happy to be with us, giving back to his like local community, working for the Remparts, and then trying to rebuild the team to become again a champion team. Probably, we're expecting it. And we're in the second year of rebuilding the team, so we should be better in 2028, which is the plan.
Yeah, that's awesome. And then obviously you guys have had like very good coaches and stuff come through there and everything. And
we had Patrick Roy coaching for like almost 15 years with us.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you about him too. What it was like to work with him, like because you hear different things and stuff like in the media and stuff, and then what was it actually like with him there?
I would say I met a lot of coaches over the years, like for all of those here in hockey, and he was probably the best ever I worked with. Is so passionate of the game, is so intense of what he's doing. He's like thinking of hockey, of like coaching and hockey, I would say 24 hours a day.
Yeah.
when he came back in 2018, his plan was, I want to rebuild, because he was also the GM, and he said, I want to rebuild that team to be the champion one in 2023. And that's what happens. We won everything. We won the regular season championship. We won the playoff championship and then the Memorial Cup. So what else can you ask more? Nothing.
Yeah, yeah.
And he won like 2 Memorial Cup during his first day when he came after his retirement. He was part of the ownership at the time. So he came to as a GM 2003, decided to go behind the bench in 2005 and stayed until 2012 when he was named in Colorado. Then stayed there, take 2 years off, and decided to come back in 2018. And he did everything he can for having those kids becoming good players. Like we had like 5 or 6 drafted players on that team. 2 or 3 are playing AHL right now, and we have one. In fact, we have one who graduated from Zachary Baldock, is playing in St. Louis. It's his second year this year, and he's going well. He's doing great. He's only 21, and he's very good. He's a good rookie player.
Yeah. I didn't realize he was there for 15 years.
Yeah, he was there from coaching from 2005 until 2012, and then came back for 2018 to 2023.
Wow. Yeah, I didn't realize it was that long.
Yeah.
Yeah, because then he left and coached the Avalanche, right? And then
the
came
Avalanche
back
for 3 years, and then took 2 years off just playing golf and thinking he was like retiring from hockey forever, but he was not able. He was still like following us. He was coming to Quebec, spent his summer, and spent like two winters in Florida for playing golf. Was coming back in summer, and then he got a phone call from his best friend who was our team president, and he said, okay, I'm gonna go back. And we had so fun, like playing with that team of like that group of guys who were with us like for at least 4 years. We had almost the same group of guys, and he knew that those were like the center of the team, and he rebuilt around them, and we became what we were in 2023, like the CHL champions.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, and now he's coaching
the
Islanders.
Yeah.
No, that's awesome. So I guess he completely went the other way. He's going to retire and play golf now. He's
still working hard. I'm talking to him like maybe once a week, and it's a lot of work, but it's still like as passionate as it was like when he was playing, and is doing like bringing the same behind the bench.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Yeah, because I remember like Mix. I think the only team I remember him with playing was the Avalanche. Like when I was growing up, I think he was already with the Avalanche.
He went to play there in 1995.
Yeah. So
and he stayed there until he retired in 2003.
Yeah. And we were talking about before that you really like being involved in this level, right? Like obviously, you were, in the NHL level, you've been in other pro levels, and you said that this level is really special to you.
Yeah, it's special because I think the relationship we have with players, their families, I'm like in between, I would say, between the coaching staff and the families. So they all come to me if they need something. They call me for whatever. They are like wondering about their kids, but they know they are in good hands. As soon as we meet them at the draft or whenever we sign them as free agents or whatever, they know we meet the families. We tell them what we can do. We tell them how good they will be in good hands, and they understand that very fast, and they knew that they can put confidence in us to take care of their kids. We want them to become like, as I said earlier, good hockey players, but good people also. And we're not like we're doing anything we can do for having them happy, having the families happy, and it's different that working with pro players. When they come playing pro, they have sometimes already have they're married, they have kids, they're living by themselves, they're independent. I would say they have money, and so it's very different than those are young coming at 16, and then you see them growing up. They come at 16, 17, 18, 19, and then 20. Oh, they're leaving already. It's going pretty fast, and it's fun to work with those young boys, hockey players.
Yeah, and it's like that's the cool thing about junior hockey, like because there is so much, I guess, like dependency on the organization. Like it really is like a big family as opposed to the pro game where it's a job, right? Guys are showing up, they're doing their job. It's they have their complete life outside of hockey. But like these guys, like they're kind of like leaning on the organization for life outside of hockey because it is a really cool level.
Yeah, and that's one of the biggest difference also with pro players, because they have money, they can do whatever they want whenever they want, and they don't they need us, but they need us for certain things, but they're most of the time by themselves, so you don't feel the same relationship with them. It's very different.
Right.
When they're like younger than 16 to 20, they rely on you for, I don't know, my car is broken, can you help me to bring it to the garage or whatever. But we are representing a lot for them. I mean, we have a good organization, a lot of good people working around, from the equipment manager to the ed therapist or sports therapist, as coach, assistant coach, video coach. We have almost the same people working around an NHL team. I would say less people. Like if you're talking about like equipment manager, probably in the NHL, sometimes there are 2, 3, 4, 5 guys taking care of them. We have 2, but that's the same service we're offering them.
Yeah. Yeah. No,
they need a stick, they have a stick. They need like their skate sharpened, we do that. They're never missing anything.
Yeah, like you said, you guys are taking care of everything from the second they get to Quebec, like and it's again, like if anybody got on late, the Remparts facility and operation is really, really, really crazy and cool. If you want to see it, scan any Swan Hockey merch tag, any piece of merch that you have, including last year's Onward and Upward tour jersey. If it has a merch tag like this, just scan it with your smartphone and you'll instantly get a video, behind the scenes video of pretty much a day in the life with the Quebec Remparts. It's really, really cool. The amenities they have, the treatment they get, it's pretty crazy. And for, again, anybody that's unaware, if you got on the show late, it's these kids are 16 to 20 years old. Like this is the CHL is the top junior league in the world. For players 16 to 20 years old, they send a lot of guys directly to the National Hockey League. It's 16 to 20 years old. So yeah, if you have any Swan Hockey merch tag, we'll have that on it now. So yeah, check that out. It really is pretty crazy. And why don't we talk about, we're already over 50 minutes. Why don't we quickly try to get into, in terms of recruiting, right? So like, now that's the question, right? It's like people, they're interested, right? Like, I think conveying the message to players of like how good you actually have to be and what to do to stand out and to get there. Like, is there anything that you could talk about and, from without giving too much away, like, what do you guys look for in a prospect? Like, what do you guys look for in a player? Like, where it's like, okay, this is, these are the qualities we want to see for us to, this
For
is what's
sure.
going to make us want to draft you.
Yeah, for sure. The like our scouting team is looking at good players for sure, but good abilities, but also good person. Because when we are preparing for the draft, for example, they make a list of like the best players they see over the season, but they also do interviews with them. They want to talk to them. They want to know them outside of the ice. Uh, in US, we have a scout working for us. A couple of people just pointing out like good players they can see and we don't see. We go there like 4, 5, 3 times, see tournaments, prep school games, or whoever should be interesting to see. And I would say more than the other years now, because we know they have a chance to come. We know that we may have a chance to have them on the team. So whoever they are, whoever they play hockey and playing like who have the capacities or abilities to play the higher level, they can have a chance, I would say.
Yeah. Do you guys plan on like beefing up your U.S. scouting department now with the rule change?
No, but we were like over the last years we were like teams. There was like the regular draft and there was also the American draft. They were saying each team were obliged to pick up like 2 players from US. But I would say since 2006, 2007, none of US players came to play with us. So we were drafting them, inviting them to the camp a few times. If like a couple came for 48 hours to the training camp and then leave. But now it's different.
Yeah.
I would say what would be the chance to see them play with us is probably better than ever, because they have like both opportunities. They can come play with us for 3, 4 years and then go back to the States and like live their dream of playing NCAA if it's what they still want to do.
Yeah. And it's crazy too, because like that's the other rumor down here is that like, oh, the Canadian teams don't like the American players. They won't take the American players just because they're American. I'm like, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Like, I mean, I play junior hockey in Canada. It was great. I loved it. I was treated awesome. Like, like, and to hear you say that, like a lot of the American players
I don't
won't
think
come.
it's true, because
it's crazy.
If that player has more like for example, an American player can be like listed #1 overall. We never know. And if it's the #1 overall and if it's the best player on the list, like any team would pick him up.
Yeah.
For sure, even if he's American. Because like teams are always searching for like the best players or like the best prospects to be on the team. And that's not something we would not do because it's American. That's false to think that.
It's crazy. And yeah, to like what you just said, like you guys are looking for the best players, right? That's why I always tell people like performance is king. Like teams, they just want the best players. They just want the players that can help them win games. It's very simple. That's what they're looking for.
Yeah. Whoever is Russian, like Czech player or whoever is, like those players are not like drafted in regular draft. There is like the import, like CHL import draft every July, beginning of July. Again, we cannot have more than 2 import players on our team, on each team, but it happens once a year. And if you have 1, you can only draft 1. If you have 2, you don't draft. So.
Yep. And in your league, the imports are only the Europeans. Like, so,
Yes.
just so everybody at home knows, like Americans are not considered imports in the CHL.
No, they're considered as like Canadian players.
Yeah. Because that was the other funny thing. Like when the NCAA rule change happened, like everybody was complaining, like, oh, great. Now the Canadian kids are going to take all our scholarships. I'm like, it has nothing to do with Canadian or American. Like it's the CHL. The CHL team could have a whole team of Americans if they want. Like it has nothing to do with citizenship.
No, nothing to do with it, for sure.
Like, like it's just like it's crazy sometimes. Like that's why that's why like I try to like that's why I love this show, because it's just about trying to educate people.
And I think that change of rule is good for both sides, is good for like U.S. players who were maybe attracted by junior hockey in Canada and they did not do or did not come because they did not want to lose their eligibility. But now they can come, try it, play, and
Yeah.
maybe in 3-4 years they're going to be back in U.S. And that's the same for our players who are looking for other opportunities to play, like college. They can do so.
Yeah, and another reason why I like it is because I think it kind of makes things a bit more clear. Like where now there's like kind of like a one, like obviously everybody's path is a little bit different, but there's like one road up now that everybody sees. Like there's like one clear, like, hey, this is the path up. And then again, everybody's path will be a little bit different, but there's not this like fork in the road anymore where it's like, oh, what road do you want to travel down to try to get there? It's like, nope, there's just one road now.
Yeah, and
I think that's nice.
Yeah, that's nice. And I'm just thinking about a goalie we had like 2 years ago. He was drafted by the Montreal Canadiens, and last year we traded him in December, and we traded him to Rimouski, and they were like thinking that he would be like their goalie to go to the Memorial Cup this year because they're hosting it, and he was injured like back in like just before the playoffs last year. He had a knee, like a shoulder injury, and he did not play for the whole season. So he was here like this year in February, he did not know what to do. And he said, because Rimouski released him, he did not play for a year. So he said, I need to find a way to play now. So he decided to go, he found a place in the BCHL and sign a commitment with Colorado University. And he's drafted by the Canadiens. They did not sign him yet, but he has 4 more years to prove himself now.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, the players are definitely the big winner in this. I mean, like we've covered this quite a bit over the past few months. I mean, the players I think are definitely the big winner.
Yeah.
Like for sure. I mean, the big loser I think is the BCHL, because even like the USHL, like you'll still have guys that maybe they're a better fit in that league, or maybe they don't, maybe they don't want to leave home, or they want to, they want to still play in the United States. But the BCHL is the same territory as the Western League, right? Like what reason is there to play in the BCHL now instead of the Western League? There is none.
Mm.
Unless it's like a better fit, if you're maybe a lower, lower
and
player
I think
that
they're probably the biggest loser in that game. But I would say that's part of it now. That's the reality. I mean, that's the reality now. Like those players have the opportunity to come in the queue, and then still having doors open to the NCAA. That's the best situation for them.
Yeah, and then the other tough thing that the BCHL has to deal with is the fact that they left Hockey Canada, so all their players, they're free to go. They don't even need trades to go major junior. They just pick up and leave.
Yeah, because they were a non-federated league by Hockey Canada, so they just need to write a letter why they wanted to come to play in the CHL. Then they approved it and they come. They cannot now, but that was like back in December and January, like before the trade deadline.
Yeah. It's no, it's definitely, I definitely think the player, like this is the best for the, the players for sure. I mean, but yeah, this was awesome. If anybody out there has anything they want to say, say it now. We're at an hour. Nicole, thank you so much for doing this.
It was a pleasure.
Yeah, no, absolutely. We'll have to do it again. It was fun. I told you, just go by fast. They go by real fast.
Yeah.
And
you were right.
yeah. No, they always. I told you the one day me and Bill Underwood were on here for like 2 hours and 40 minutes.
Yeah.
It was like,
I won't do that for 2 hours. We have a game tomorrow, but it was a pleasure to do it, and hopefully I would maybe help like players or people who were listening to maybe change our mind about our league, about like what we can offer, and I think that's the goal.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and I hope that everybody, does start to see everything for what it is, and I mean, we'll be right back here next week, guys. RC, like, the general manager for Westchester Wolves in the NCDC. He will be joining us next Tuesday. So I will see you guys then. The new rewards program is almost finished. So if anybody's interested in that, you can join the Discord and find information about it there. You can hit me up in Web3 support in regards to the rewards program, and you can get some help there. The whole thing's built on the blockchain, which is Web3, which is the next generation of the internet. It's very, very unique, probably unlike anything you guys have ever experienced before. So it's new. Don't be afraid of new. Just ask for help. And yeah, we're there to help. Again, any piece of Swan Hockey merch that you have at home that has a merch tag on it, including the 2024 Onward and Upward Tour jersey, you can scan that merch tag and you will instantly receive behind the scenes footage of the Quebec Remparts, pretty much a day in the life at the Quebec Remparts. It's pretty impressive. So if you have a piece of merch with a merch tag on it, go scan that now, take a look. Again, really, really impressive stuff. Nicole, anything you want to close with?
No, I would say I think I hope I said a lot and I told a lot about what we are and what we can offer, and that was like the goal to participate to your podcast, and that was a pleasure for me.
Awesome. Well, it was an absolute pleasure for me as well. I know it was a pleasure for everybody at home. Yeah, again, Nicole, thank you so much for doing this. I really appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
So everybody have a great night. Nicole, have a great night. And I will see you guys soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.